What happens in your life has to be paid. So that's why we are on a fast right now, this church. Today is 14 days. This is how you look when you haven't eaten any food for 14 days. How do I look? See? A complete fast. Tea and water. Complete fast. You don't die. Some of you wonder why I'm so anointed. You wonder why there's so much power when I get up here to speak. You wonder why I have such an understanding of the kingdom of God. There's a price you pay. How bad do you want to know God? America goes on a fast, and they fasted for a day. You didn't fast, you skipped a meal. Christ fasted 40 days. Moses fasted 40 days in the mountain. Elijah fasted 40 days. There are some things you cannot get done without fasting. The disciples loved God. They followed Jesus. They believed his teaching. And they ran into a little demon-possessed boy. And they couldn't cast the demon out. This is in Mark chapter 9. They loved God. They followed Jesus. And they obeyed the scriptures, his words. But they still couldn't cast the demon out. And they prayed just like you pray. Come out in Jesus' name. Come out. I cast you out. And nothing happened. And the demon says, no, I ain't coming out. Why? Because I'm a different kind of spirit. I need more than what you're doing. Prayer can't get me out. And the demon never left. So Christ, he was leaving the mountain, and he comes down after fasting. And he met with them, and he says, what's going on? And the whole city was confused. And a man came to Christ, and he says, I brought my boy to your disciples, and they couldn't cast the demon out. Now, here's what's interesting. Christ didn't cast the demon out first. The first thing he did is he turned to them and he rebuked them. He says, how long must I be with you? Meaning, haven't you guys gotten it yet? Listen to me. There are some things you want God to do, but you're not willing to pay a price. Look at me, 14 days, no food. And I'm telling you I'm fasting, and I'm not telling you because I want to impress you. I want to show you what 14 days of no food looks like. Because most of the people that I meet in the church, when they fast for 2 days, they think they're going to die. That's a lie. If you can't overcome the power of your belly, how can you overcome the power of a demon? So Jesus, what did he do? He turned to the man and he says, bring the boy to me. And then he cast the demon out. Pow! In one word. And then he gave the boy back to his father. And the disciples, they were ashamed and they were quiet because they were publicly embarrassed. And that's why the Bible says then later they were together at a meal and they were eating and privately. And they were afraid to talk to him. But one of them built up the courage to ask Jesus a question. Peter was his name. Peter said, Master, why couldn't we cast that demon out? And Christ, he was really quick to answer him. He says, oh, son, he says, that kind doesn't come out except by prayer, which is what you guys did, and fasting, which is what you didn't do. And if you would, everybody look in your Bible. Mark chapter 9, verse 29. Matthew 17, verse 21, the verse is not there. But in Mark it is. And in your Bible, if they have deleted the word fasting at the end of that statement, take your pen and write it in there. This kind can come out only by prayer and fasting. That is how it is supposed to read. In the original King James, which was written before the NIV, in some of these later translations, the word fasting is in there. Why is this important? Because there are some things that you're trying to change in your situation, in your life, and it's stuck. And you've been praying and you've been asking God for weeks and months and years. And God is saying, this kind doesn't change without pushing away the plate. Because the spirit world is a spiritual world. And fasting increases your spiritual capacity to receive spiritual power. It's like a pipe. And food is like the gunk in the pipe. And so the more you eat, the smaller the hole gets. And so the spirit still flows through you, but it's very restricted. Okay? So fasting is like Drano. It just flushes out all the distractions, everything that could be inhibiting you. And what it does is it makes you solely, completely open to God. That's why the first act of Jesus was what? Fasting. Check it. Matthew chapter 4. Before he started his public ministry, he fasted 40 days and 40 nights. That was his first act. Fasting. So if you want to know God and understand his kingdom, there's a price you have to pay. Give up some things. Change routines. Change some habits. Make fasting a lifestyle. You know, in the kingdom, fasting like this is normal in our culture. So make a decision this year to pay a price. Fast like I'm doing. God has called me to take his message of the kingdom to the nations, to raise up and develop leaders in third world countries, and to take his government into the government and talk to heads of governments. And that's why God trusts me to talk to them. So that when I sit with them, I need to have direct access from God. So I have to be completely spiritually in tune. Because I'm about to advise someone who's going to make policy. You know, perhaps the church in the Western world is eating itself to death. Powerless church. If you fast properly, I guarantee you will get results. Because fasting doesn't change God, it changes you. Fasting also keeps you healthy. It helps keep your heart right. It helps keep your blood clean. And these are just some of the side benefits of obeying God. Also helps kind of keep off some excess weight. Always feels so good, you know, when your pants feel a little looser. Here's something else that you've probably never read in your Bible before. Christ never said if you fast. He said when you fast. Meaning you must do it before God. When means this is not an option for you. If you say, I follow Jesus, then this is a commandment. This is something that we do. And some of you have never fasted. And it's a command from the King to fast. All right, so I challenge you this year, do what I'm doing. Okay? Do it. If the Lord prompts you to fast, sometimes in the summertime I'm fasting. It'll be for a week, periodically. Just whatever you do, don't make it a ritual. Fasting is a cultural norm of kingdom life. And if you read in the Old Testament, the children of Israel, they knew what it meant to consecrate themselves before the Lord and to have a time of fasting corporately. And so we need to bring this back into the church because it's missing. Get to know God the way you never can on a full stomach. Amen? Sacrifice. Okay, well, let's get into the message that I have for you tonight. Get your Bibles out and a fresh piece of paper. I want you to take notes. Scientifically, they have done studies that if you listen to something and just merely listen to it, you'll remember 38% of what you heard. If you listen and take notes, you will remember 68% of what you're learning. Now, if you go back and listen to this teaching on my YouTube channel and listen to it 7 times, you will remember up to 98% of what you're learning. So it's important to take notes because it's like you're forcing memory retention by doing that, okay? So that's why it's always important. You'll hear me say in class, take notes, all right? Because I want you to remember what you are about to hear and refer to your notes throughout the year, okay? So we say goodbye to another year. 2022 is history. It's behind us. And whenever a year passes, time passes. And I just want to quickly remind you of what this year should be for all of us. First of all, and you can start taking notes, a new year gives us an opportunity to redefine our priorities. What is a priority? Priority means first things first. Above all else, this is more important. This is what gets my time. This gets my energy, my resources, my attention, my focus, my concentration. That's a priority. All right? So make a decision for the next, just take the rest of this month, the next few days, and take a review. Take stock of your life. Are the things that I'm doing important or just urgent? Don't confuse urgent things with important things. Secondly, a new year gives us opportunity to redefine our purpose. Are we still on course for what we were born to do? Thirdly, a new year also gives us an opportunity to redefine our life's vision. Do we know exactly what we want to do for the next 25 years? Are we still in line with our clear vision for our lives? Is that vision on paper? Have you written it down? Has it been refined? I'm doing that myself for my own life. Number 4, a new year gives us an opportunity to reestablish worthwhile goals. Everybody say worthwhile. Say it out loud. Worthwhile. That means they should be worth your while. You can establish goals that waste your time because they don't take you towards your vision. So go back and don't be afraid to mark out some things that don't make sense. Don't be afraid to give up on things that really aren't important anymore. And don't be afraid to confess that, you know what, I was off on that. So let me get back on track. Number 5, a new year gives us opportunity to bury the past and to move into a future that we haven't created yet. So please, get over it. Whatever it was, get over it right now in this meeting tonight. Leave all the baggage that you had last year in 2022 and leave it in 2022. Loose yourself. Cut off all the weight. Get rid of the stuff that has been distracting you and forget the past. Let go of the stuff that's been weighing you down. Stuff that's, that you've been dragging around, including the people that hurt you or, the hurtful things that they said or they did to you. Cut it off, bury it, and forget it. That's what a new year does. It's a powerful change. Number 6, a new year gives us opportunity to redeem the time. Now this is important. Redeem the time that's been lost. You've wasted so much time. I beg you, make this the last year you waste. I want us to turn to Ephesians, and I want you to turn there in your own Bible. Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians is in the New Testament. It's one of the books that Paul wrote. And it's a short book. It's one of my favorite ones. But go to Ephesians 5. It gives some great advice about your life. Now I want you to underline this very important passage here. Look at verse 14. It begins by saying, "Wake up." Wake up. Now listen, Paul was not talking to sleeping people physically, He was speaking to people who were sleeping through life. Mundane, boring, day-to-day, routine, same traffic jams, same clothes, same friends, same activities, same old habits, same TV shows. He says, wake up. You can be walking in sleep. You can spend years sleepwalking. Look at that verse. Take your pen and underline it in your Bible, where it says, wake up, O sleeper. It's time for change. And then look at the next word, arise. Underline that word in your Bible. What does arise mean? Arise means get yourself up. That means no one is going to change your condition. Arise is self-initiated action. Nothing will change this year until you change it. Wake up. How many of you have woken up but didn't arise? Some of you did that this morning. You woke up, but you didn't arise. Guess what? God called you to this meeting to wake up. But you see, it's possible that when this meeting is over and you leave, you can actually go back to sleep the whole year. Arise after you wake up. And then he says, look at it, the next verse, he says, and let Christ shine upon you. Christ means anointed king. Shine means exposure. Make a note of that. Christ will expose some things. When you wake up and you get up, the king will show you everything that you've been doing wrong. He will expose all of your bad decisions, your irresponsible behavior, your bad use of time and money. He will show you how you've been lazy in certain areas of your life last year. He will also expose all the wrong company that you've been keeping. He'll expose how you waste money. Imagine some of you, if you had just saved some of that money last year. So what does he do? He shines on us. Wake up. Okay, good. Get up. Fine. And here's what's wrong, he says. Now, once you wake up and you arise, he shows what's lacking in your life. Look at the next verse in your Bible. I've got it on the screen too. It says, be careful how you walk away from the bed. The bed is where you've been sleeping all last year. Your life is your bed. The lifestyle is your bed. And you've been sleeping with habits all year. And God says, walk away from the bed. Walk away from the lifestyle. Why? Because last year was a time element. It was 12 months. Now you have 12 months ahead of you, one more time. And it says, what's the next thing say? It says, do not be unwise, but be what? What does it say? Wise. Okay, write down the word wisdom. Write it down. Wisdom. This is what God is saying to you this year. Be wise. The word wisdom, here's what it means. Write it down. It means applied knowledge. Applied knowledge. Everybody say wisdom. Say it out loud. You got to let your spirit feel it. Get it in your spirit. Wisdom. Be wise, he says. Wisdom now is different than knowledge. Okay? Wisdom is different from knowledge and understanding. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is different. What is understanding? Understanding is comprehension. But wisdom is application. These are actually the three admonitions of the Bible. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding. All right? But wisdom is different than the other two. It's applied knowledge. So God didn't say, arise and walk away from your old life with knowledge. No. You know, because you've already got so much knowledge. You got so much last year. But yet you are still stuck with some habits. Can I suggest that this year should be, maybe in your life, the year of application? Say it. The year of application. Everybody's quiet in the room here. The year of practical life. That's this year. 2023 is the year of application, the year of wisdom. Be wise. Practical life, where everything, the theories, the principles, all this great revelation that you've gotten from God on the kingdom, God says, listen, I want you to apply them this year. I want wisdom this year. Why? ¿Por qué? Look at the next verse. It says, redeeming the time. Underline that in your Bible. Redeeming the time. Making the best use of time. You might have a translation. That's a different one. Redeeming the time. Because, why? You don't have long to live. Then it says, because the days are evil. You see that there? Days are evil means days are short. That's what it means. This statement is also found in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, the last chapter. And it says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of your youth, while the evil days come not." That means your years are not cut off. So he says, wake up, redeem the time, because you aren't going to live as long as you think. I'm talking to somebody. What is he doing? He's trying to give us a consciousness of death. Do you know what motivates me? My death. The Bible says, death is the end of every man, and the living should take this to heart. So there's one thing that you can be sure of. You will die. Okay? So get over that, accept it, settle it now. Now, once you get that cleared off your mind, I'm going to die, then you start living sensibly. Death is a great motivator. You know, every time I think of doing something that God challenges me to do, and I'm afraid to do it, He always reminds me, just think how long you're going to be dead. This one came up in my spirit as I was thinking about this. It says in Psalm 90, verse 12, it says, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." Your days are numbered. Now let me just say to those of you who are putting things off, who are saying eventually or someday I'll do it. So I know some of you wanted to go on a cruise all your life, and you just keep saying, someday I'll do it. And now it's been 10 years, 15 years. Imagine going to heaven and never been on a cruise. Some of you make excuses for not doing things. Well, I ain't got no money. Listen, you ain't never going to have the money, because God doesn't work with money. I'm going to say something important. Pay attention. What did I just say? God doesn't work with money. God works with decisions and desires. Write it down. I just gave you an important principle. God works with decisions and desires. So God doesn't provide money first. He works with desires and decisions. So God never says, I will give you what you got money to pay for. Does He? No. He says, acknowledge me, and I will give you what? The desires that are in your mind. That's that word there. The word heart means mind. Psalm 37, verse 4. Then the next verse says, oh, I love it. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will do it. Some translations say He will act. You want God to act? Interesting translation. And the King James actually says He will bring it to pass. So you want something from God? Well, He's waiting on you to do something. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires that He put in your heart. So when you want to do something in life, first of all, you got to desire it. Now, desire, that's a deep word. Because desire means you are passionate, committed, dedicated, and you won't quit until you get something. That's what passion is. So is that how bad you want to go on that cruise? Or is it just a tour? See, desire means you are willing to pay a price. Then God provides the price. So he doesn't give you what you are interested in. He gives you what you are passionate for. Casual faith will never attract God. Passionate faith is what attracts God's provisions. Hallelujah. Yes. Redeem the time, for the days are evil. They are short. In other words, live in a way where every day is a day of passion. Redeeming the time means what? I'm going to get back everything that I lost by my bad use of time. Look at verse 17 in your Bible. It says, therefore, do not be foolish. What is foolish? Okay, if wise means to apply knowledge, then foolish means what? To get knowledge and not apply it. So God is saying, there are very educated fools. Some of you have lots of knowledge. I mean, you've sat under these teachings of the Word of God, and God has given you so much revelation, but you are still stuck. So guess what? Knowledge is not your problem. Application. Okay, now please don't stone me, but let's read what God says. Okay? Therefore, do not be foolish. Okay? A foolish person could have a lot of knowledge. It's like a smoking doctor. Am I right? A smoking doctor is a fool. He knows what cigarettes will do, but he smokes. So he has knowledge, but no wisdom. Application. So don't think that ignorance makes you a fool. Knowledge makes you a fool. Because knowledge increases your capacity to be a fool. Anybody getting it? All right. See, I told you should have never come to Kingdom Life class. Oh, boy. Once Jesus, he said to the Pharisees and the scribes, he says, if I had not come to you and spoken my words to you, you would be excused in your sins. But because I have come to you and I have told you the truth, you will die in your sins, he says. Wake up. This year must be a year that you redeem the time, because you don't have much of it. Jesus died at 33 and a half years old. How old are you? I mean, he did so much in 3 years. It embarrasses us. His ministry lasted 3 years, and he saved the whole world in 3 years. Now that's what I call using your time. How long have you been living? Redeem the time. Because he says, if you don't, you'll be foolish. Okay, read the next statement. But understand what? What the will of the Lord is. That word will means purpose. So he shifts to purpose. He says, find out God's will for your life so you could stop wasting your time, your energy, your gifts, your talents, your wonderful, beautiful presence on the wrong people. The will of God is supposed to dictate your schedule. The will of God is supposed to dictate your company. Can you imagine that? The will of God should tell you who to be with and who not to be with. And listen, some folks won't like the fact that you don't want to be with them. It's okay to leave people. Not everybody is supposed to be with you. So stop trying to get everybody to like you. Choose your company based on your destiny. Jesus Christ chose his friends. He left his family and chose his friends. I know there's maybe some of you that left your family to come be a part of this church, this ministry. Some of you left your church to come here. Do you know why? Because I'm good company. Hopefully. Here you are, being helped and elevated and encouraged and challenged to become great. That's what this exists for. That's why you're here. This ministry, Regent Kings. So that's why you like listening to these teachings and being here. Because it's information to make your life better. And I know that, sometimes it's terrible to go home for some of you. Going home is a coming down. Because you have to be among people who are always complaining, always finding fault, always negative, always arguing and cussing. It's like you just want to stay on the mountain. Choose your company based on where you want to go in life. You have to protect your life. And protect your time. So it says, what? Understand what the will of God is. And then he says, look at verse 18. Oh boy. Mary, you're going to like this one. Look at verse 18 in your Bible. It says, and be not drunk with wine. Okay, now back there in Paul's day, they used to smoke reefer. I am sure they had opium in that part of the world. And I'm sure they still do. They had marijuana. They had cocaine. Now, we are amazing people because we outlaw the heroin, the cocaine, marijuana. God have mercy on this nation and any nation that has made that legal. But there's other stuff. But we legalize what Paul says is the most dangerous. Do not get drunk on wine, alcohol. The most dangerous drugs in your country is alcohol. Did you know that? Ask any doctor. So we legalize the worst one. You know why? Because this one is so subtle. You snuff up some cocaine and you get high right away. It just hits you, boom, and your head's gone. But you have a glass of wine or a beer, nothing. Even smoking some reefer. Do that a few times. Woo! You dance and see colors and everybody's cool, Goes right to the head. But you drink one beer, you don't feel nothing. Second beer, nothing. You think you're cool. And by the time the fifth beer hits you, and a half a cup of whiskey and a shot of tequila, woo! Now I know some of you used to drink that stuff. Look, Paul says, if you drink or you take anything that disturbs your mental faculty, if you take anything that disturbs your focus, he says you are destroying your time. There are people who go into houses. They go into these places where everybody taking drugs and they're hanging out with other drug users. And I mean, they can spend months in there and their life goes by. Write this down. Any habit that controls your life is a time stealer. Now, it may not be alcohol. It may not be drugs. It could be pornography. It could be prostitution, male and female. Anything habitual is dangerous. It's a time stealer. Now, I know some of you, you sit down and you read the newspaper every day. I mean, you read every headline, every page, front and back, every advertisement, even the obituaries. Lord have mercy. So you know who died last week, but you don't know God's will because you have no time for God and reading His Word. So what is consuming, eating up your time? Think about it. Let's look at the word redeem. Redeem the time. This is an important word. Redeem means to own something. Write these down. If I said to you, redeem your time, what do I mean? To take ownership of it again. So that means you cannot allow this year for anyone or anything to control your time that is not important to your purpose. The word redeem also means to fulfill a pledge. It also means to convert into value. Redeem. To redeem money or to redeem something that someone owes you, that means that they actually bring it back to you. Redeem the time means you go back and get the time that was stolen last year. Redeem the time. So that means you stop letting people use your life. Because believe me, friends, there are people who will gladly waste your time. Now, this last one I thought's interesting. Number 5, it says, redeem means to repossess something. Redeem the time, for the days are evil. Repossess time. Why? Because you don't have long to live, it says. God creates life with time, and so your life is your time. Think about that. Your life is your time. Your time is your life. So whatever you are doing with your time, that's your life. So anyone or anything that consumes your time is consuming your life. And some people, they are parasites. They just suck your time. Watch out. Understanding purpose gives time meaning. Life was given to you by God to fulfill His purpose. So you are not here to just do whatever you want. And you don't have forever to find your purpose and fulfill it. So you got to protect your time. Amen. This is going to be a good year because you are going to repossess your life. Say that out loud. I will repossess my life. Everybody say it. I will repossess my life. How are you going to do that? I'm going to control my time again. I will sit down and read the Bible every morning for 1 hour. You got to control that hour. I will spend time in prayer every morning before I go to work. Why? I'm going to control my time again. I'm going to wake up 1 hour earlier so I can spend time with God before I spend time with other people or do anything else with that hour. Why? I'm going to control that time again. See? We've lost control. That was a result of the fall. We got to get back into control of our time. Control of our lives. Okay, redeem the time. Now here's something interesting. The translation of this verse. Now Paul wrote this like 3 or 4 times in different books. This is in Colossians chapter 4, verse 5. He says, walk in wisdom toward those who are what? Outside. Redeeming the time. Okay. Walk in wisdom toward people who are what? People outside. He says, look, when you walk out of your house, a lot of people are not saved. That's what that word means. Outside means unsaved people. They are outside. They are not a part of the kingdom of God. So he says, walk with them wisely. Why? Because they will eat up your time. Look at that verse. Wisdom means what? Applied knowledge. So he says, when you meet people, kick in your knowledge fast. Let me see if this person is making sense. You know, some people want an appointment to talk foolishness. Are you listening to me? I mean, there are some folks who want to take you on a date, and they have no sense. Oh my goodness. There are some people who want to marry you just to spend the rest of their life parasitically sucking on you. Sucking your life out of your life. So when you deal with people, he says, be wise. Protect your time. There are some friends who aren't friends. You know that. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Take an inventory of your friends this year. 2023 is the year to take stock. Do some inventory, throw some things out of the warehouse. And you know what? It might be people. It might be habits. It might be a routine that isn't working. Okay, let's look at this verse in the NIV translation. Everyone read this one out loud. Be wise in the way you act toward outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, when you leave this meeting and go about the rest of this weekend into next week, and you meet somebody, just check to see if it's an opportunity. Because not everything that presents itself to you is an opportunity. Now, I discovered something about the devil. The devil's greatest weapon is good things. What did I just say? The devil's greatest weapon against the kingdom citizen is good things. Okay, let me explain it because some of you don't understand. The devil knows that you aren't stupid enough to do bad things. So he won't tempt you to do bad things. You're too smart for that. So what he does is he gives you good things to do that aren't right for you. Why? Because all the devil wants is your time. Because he knows your time is your life. Heavy stuff. I know, isn't it? But this is important. Don't confuse good with right. Good things, right things. That's why you got to know God's will. So you know, this is a good thing, but this ain't the right thing for me. I can't be doing this because this ain't right. It's good, but it's not right for me. So what he does is he'll get you to do a lot of good things to preoccupy you Preoccupation is a dangerous thing. What he does is he gets you all worked in on things that God never told you to do. And they are all good things. And then when you over, no one even knew that you lived. Write this down. The secret to protecting your time is knowing your purpose. Because your purpose protects you from doing good things at the expense of right things. And so this is why you can say no in life very easily. No is only possible when yes is known. Selah. That means think about it. Listen to me. This year, begin this week. This year, I promise you, there will be a lot of opportunities coming your way. And some of them are demonically dressed in big stuff. All kinds of deals coming across your desk, business ideas, options, alternatives, offers. And you got to have the Spirit of God to discern. Why? Because the devil is after your time. Now, I know sometimes you think the devil wants to kill you. Well, he really doesn't want to kill you. What he really wants is he wants to kill your time. Because your time is your life. Now, worshiping God is a good thing, isn't it? Well, King Saul tried that. Do you remember King Saul? King Saul was told by God to go into a city, take the city, and kill all the animals in the city. And while they were killing the animals, he ran into some beautiful sheep. And so he told the soldiers, "Don't kill those ones." He says, "I want to use them to worship God." Now, is that a bad thing? That's a good thing, right? The Bible says that he brought the sheep back to the camp, and the prophet Samuel, he came to visit him because the Lord told him to go and to check what this man did. After all, he was king, right? And the prophet said to Saul, "Did you obey the Lord?" And Saul says to Samuel, "Oh yes, I obeyed the Lord. I did what the Lord said." And Samuel says, "If you obeyed the Lord, then what is that bleating I hear behind the tent?" And his explanation is your explanation very often. We tell God what's good for him. "I'm going to do this for you, God." And God says, "No, no, no, no. It's not what you do for me. It's what I tell you to do." So he took a good thing and destroyed the right thing. And the prophet says, because you disobeyed God, you are no longer king. And then that's when he made this statement that you hear often. He said, "King Saul, don't you know it is more important to obey God than to worship God?" Wow. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Say obedience. Come on, say it. Obeying the laws of God is more important than singing in the choir. Obeying the laws of God is more important than preaching in the pulpit. God fired many preachers long time ago. Do you know that when Saul was fired, he was still wearing the crown? Yeah. So they're up there preaching, and God doesn't know who they are because they've been fired long time ago. Because they would rather worship than obey. Obedience. Not every opportunity is good. Write that down. Put that on your mirror, in your office, on your desk. Not every opportunity is good. Actually, I want to correct that. Not every opportunity is right. Because there's good things and there's right things. So live your life to make sure that everything you do is an opportunity that is worth your time. Okay? And that you obey God, that it is in line with His will. All right? Controlling your time. Oh, I love this verse. Proverbs 19, verse 21. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that will prevail. So you should make your plans based on the purpose of God. So once you know God's vision and passion for your life, and this year you're going to find it again. I promise you, man, stay with me. Stick with me. Jesus said, there are leaders who are blind, and the blind lead the blind, and their destiny is the same. They fall into a pit. But then there are leaders who lead you to your purpose. And that's why God sent me into your life. That's why I'm here. So you can find your purpose again. Find out, this is why I was born. This is why I got to wake up and get out of bed every morning. Purpose controls your life. So once you know your purpose, God's purpose for your life, you find your passion. You have passion for living. Man, people don't have passion. They don't even find satisfaction in eating a nice meal. You know, their days have no passion, no fulfillment, no satisfaction. That's someone that hasn't found their purpose. Now, listen, there's an area of authority you were born with that makes you dangerous. And once you find it, you become free from people. And that position of authority is what gives you the power to make plans. Proverbs 16, verse 1, it says, to man belongs the plans of the heart, but God gives the answer of the tongue. So this verse tells us that God doesn't plan your life. You plan it. To man belongs the plans. I like this verse. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord's answer of the tongue that brings it to pass. Now, if you're wondering, what does that mean? Answer of the tongue. Reply of the tongue. It means explanation. Okay, so let me explain that. So God says, look, I will give you some dreams and ideas, and they are going to be very massive. I want you to write them down. I didn't ask you to pay for them. I asked you to write them down. To man belongs the plans. So God doesn't write your plans, your life plans for you, okay? You have to write it. And then He gives you the desires, He gives you the passions, He gives you the dreams and a vision, but you write the plan down, He says. And then I will reply on how it's going to be paid for. Explanation. So the reason why we don't pursue vision and plans is because we think that we also have to find the money first. Or we got to, find the people, or we got to find the equipment. And God says, no. It doesn't work that way. You take my dream, my assignment, my authority in your life, and you put it on paper. You put it on a plan, and then He says, I will explain how it's going to be done. Isn't that beautiful? So stop being afraid to write your dream. Okay, look at the next verse. It's in the same chapter. The book says here in Proverbs 16, verse 3, it says, commit your way to the Lord, and whatever you do shall succeed. Oh, I love that. It says all your plans will succeed. So first, you get the plans from God's purpose, and you put them on paper. And God says, listen, don't worry about how it's going to be paid. And then he says, I will make sure that they succeed. He didn't tell you how long, eh? But he guarantees you a result. Look at the next part here. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. And then what does it say? The Lord works out everything for his own ends. So the Lord says he works out everything for what? His own ends. God works out how many things? Everything. His own ends. Okay. Now look, some of you went through some difficult moments in 2022. You had a tough year. God says, okay, no problem. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that for something. Every bad experience, every good experience, whatever. He says, I'm going to work it out for your end. In the end. Everything, he says. He works out everything, the good things and the bad things, for his end. So you forget it, and he'll fix it. So he's going to take everything that you thought was a big mistake, and he's going to turn it into a big miracle. Hallelujah. That job you had for 20 years, you lost last year. God says, no problem. I'm going to work this out for my own end, he says. My own end. His end. End is purpose. He has a purpose for your life, and all this stuff that you go through, he takes it and he puts it into his plan. And he says, I'm going to work this in. I'm going to use this as an asset. Now, how can God use a deficit as an asset? Oh, but he's the only God that can turn a wonder into a wonderful. Hallelujah. So what he's going to do is he's going to use what you lost to be the source of gain. I'm talking to somebody. I said it slow. What did I say? God is going to use what you lost, and he's going to turn it into a source of gain. I feel like I want to run around the room. So all that you thought, you tried so hard, but you still lost everything. God says, no, I'm going to work with this. Look at that verse. He says, I'm going to work everything for my end. His vision for your life cannot be stopped. Some translations, by the way, it says for his own purposes. His end is his purpose. The end is the purpose of a thing. So that word end there is purpose, okay? All right. Last verse from Proverbs, same chapter, verse 9. Let's read it together. Read it with me, please. In his heart, a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. Now, steps are under God's control. Joseph saw his plan to sit on a throne as a king, but he never had an idea about the steps. Now, let me tell you something I learned about God a long time ago. And so this is why I don't worry about anything in my life. God will always show you your destiny. He will show you your purpose. He will show you your end. He will never show you the plan. Okay, some of you missed it. I'm going to say it again. God will show you your vision. He will show you your destiny. He will show you your end. He will show you all the great future you have. He will let you see details. Wow. He'll never show you how to get there. Here's why. because the purpose is the end, but the plan is the process. And so God will not show you the process and the plan, because if you know the process and the plan, you won't want the purpose anymore. See, in other words, Joseph saw the end. Okay, I'm on the throne, praise the Lord. Now, but what if he had seen the process? Okay, here's the process. First, you got to get your clothes torn off. Your brothers will cuss you. They'll put you in a pit. You become a slave. They put you in jail. The woman lies on you. And then you get to the throne. Now, if Joseph known that, he would have said, you know what? Listen, God, you can keep all that. Forget that. I'm just going to stay a shepherd right here in the bush. The steps. He controls the steps. Now, could you imagine that being in the pit was a step? What am I doing down here in this dumb job? God says that's a step. Just a step. That's not the end. You saw the end, so this can't be the end, because you already saw the vision. So where you are has to be a step. So you don't panic if you are in a step. Matter of fact, this is what I want you to do. Go into work next week and tell everybody, hey, I'm stepping in here. And they say, what are you doing here? Oh, just a step. Somebody needed to hear that right now. Because Monday mornings are tough for you. It's just a step. Some of you lost your business. And now you have to go back to a job. And God says, hey, that's fine. All this is in the plan. I'm working all this for my good, he says. Not yours, his, for his end. He says, listen, that step, that's my step. It's mine. So that's why you don't get depressed when you know the end. Knowing the end is what gives you peace. You don't panic if you know your purpose. Purpose gives you patience. Write that down. If you know what you see is not what you saw, then what you see is temporary. What did you see ultimately? What did you dream of ultimately doing? See? So you keep that in your mind. Do you know how many years it took Joseph to get to that place? To the throne? You know, and I want you to picture this in your mind. Joseph, clothes torn off by his own family. Joe stayed in the pit. They threw him in the pit. He had to urinate in the pit. He had to pass his refuse in the pit. I mean, this guy, when they took him out of the pit, I mean, he came out stink. I mean, why? You stuck in a pit. And when he came out, he was smelly, he was ugly, he was all messed up. And then they tied him to a camel in the desert. And they took him all the way through the Sinai desert. And there he is. He's staggering under the Arabian sun. I mean, scorched lips, parched hair, sun belching and burning his feet every time he takes a step. And then when the camel dropped a load, he had to walk in it. Oh, but you see, that was just his step on the way to a throne. Anyone following a camel today? Hey, don't worry about the camel. Just keep on trucking. Amen? Oh, praise God. See, he knows where you're going. The Lord determines the steps. He establishes the steps. And so now you got the plan clear on paper, right? Okay, so the plan is on paper. Now, the Lord, He determines the steps. So where you are right now, you know the step you're in. It's just a step. But He controls the steps. Yeah. Say, Jesus is Lord. He's in control. The Lord is in control of the steps. So you can go to bed. Don't worry. Anybody like to fly? Ever been on a flight? I love to fly. I can't wait to fly again. It's been a couple years. I'm ready to fly. Ever been on a flight and you're ready to land, but you have to wait because of the weather, or maybe there's some snow on the runway, or there's too much traffic build up. And so the captain comes on the PA and he says, "We've arrived at a destination, but they've put us in a holding pattern." Circling, right? And the controller says, "We're going to land, but holding right now." Say, "I've arrived, but I'm on a holding pattern." Sometimes you wonder, you're like, "God, why am I just stuck here? I mean, nothing's happening." And God says, "Look, I got you in a holding pattern." Why? I'm trying to clear some things on the ground. Oh, hallelujah. See, there's some things that God's fixing before you land. He's putting some things in place. He's waiting for the fullness of time. He's moving some stuff. He's putting some people in positions. He's lining things up. And then when it's time, you'll know it's time. So right now He says, wait. That's why the Bible says, wait on the Lord. Be of good courage. And again I say, just hold the pattern. Just hold the pattern. Hallelujah. Just hold the pattern. Why are you working here? I'm just holding the pattern. What are you doing here? I'm just holding the pattern. Why'd you come back here? I'm just holding the pattern. See? I'm teaching you how to think. This is kingdom thinking. Now I know some of you've been waiting for a long time for a breakthrough. And I believe that this meeting today is the day that miracles are going to arrive. Everybody, right where you are, just raise your right hand. Say, I receive that by faith. Lord, today it arrives. I receive it. Hallelujah. It's landing time. January is going to be such a beautiful change. I mean, you're going to say, wow, I am finally on the ground. No more resistance. The Lord determines the steps. So He knows where you are, and He knows when you are in the pit. And as a matter of fact, the pit was planned. Now, you see that there? See the desert? That's in Egypt. Now, as far as you can see, is sand and mountains. No green, no trees. It's just desert. Sand and rock. Now, that's where they had to walk to get to Israel. It is also the same path that Joseph took to come to Egypt. Now, look at the picture. There's no water out there. The only water that they can get out there is when the rain would fall far north in the mountains. And it runs down the mountains, and it appears in the desert out of nowhere. And so there's only about these 2 hours that it's there, and so you got to catch it because it dries up. And so what they do is they dig these big holes in the desert. And they got these big holes out there, I mean massive holes. They're right there in the desert, and they put them where the stream would come down from the mountain. And so when the mountain would drop the water down, it would come into the desert and it would fill that hole, and then they'd cover it up. And so then they would have water in the desert. And that's what God meant when he said, I will give you springs in the desert. So that means there's some rain somewhere. Hallelujah. The Lord says, your praise brings the clouds. So while you're praising him every morning, he's collecting clouds. Hallelujah. He said, and the clouds will drift to the mountain of the Lord, and by April, all of a sudden, you're going to see some water appear in your life. But he says it is your praise that's coming back in the form of a blessing. Praise God. Give him a glorified praise. Thank him. He is going to bring it back. Water in the desert. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, you've had those days, seasons of life where it's like parched, dry. You need some water. God says, it's coming. Your praise goes up to his ears, and he's going to bring the blessing. That's why he says, bless me in the prison. Why? He's collecting clouds. And so they said that they're these big holes. They were always right where the big roads came between Egypt and Syria. Now, you know, Israel is right on the way. Okay, so they had these Egyptian trade routes, all right? And these roads that would go along. And when they placed Joseph in the pit, right, his brothers, they didn't realize that the pit they put him in was right on the highway to Egypt. And the caravans were coming back and forth, taking and trading material back and forth from Syria all the way down to Africa and Egypt. And so they just so happened to put Joseph in a specific pit where the caravans go to Egypt. So even the pit was a purposified pit. That's a new word. Because there was someone on the way to pick him up to take him to his destiny. Can I suggest to you that the pit that you are in is a holding pattern because someone is on the way to pick you up and take you to your next step. That's why God says, be patient. Put your trust in the Lord. Wait on the Lord, and he will renew your strength. And then it says, and you will rise like an eagle. I feel God is talking to somebody tonight. You know, some of you are frustrated. Oh, I'm going into 2023 with the same old problems. God says, no. The pit period is over. Use your face. Say, I receive it right now. Last year was a pit. Yeah, no more pit period. Okay? You got to grab that for yourself. I receive it right now. My pit period is over. You know, someone can show up in your life in 2 weeks and change the rest of your life forever. Do you believe it? I believe it for myself. Lord, where is the next appointment? I mean, let the caravan come and get me. Take me to my next level. God always hides your future in people. What did I say? God always hides your future in people. So what he does is he brings people into your life to take you to the next step. So never panic in a pit, because he works out every step. By the way, something else I want to say is people are temporary. And I know some of you know what that means because you've lost someone. They died on you. Trust in the Lord. Trust means that you will trust him in the pit. Okay? That means I believe you. You believe what he said. All right? See, let me tell you what gives you patience in the pit. Purpose. Because once you've seen the end, then the only thing that is permanent is the end. Let me say it again. Once you've seen the end, then the only thing that is permanent is the end. Only the end is permanent. Everything else is temporary. What did you see in your business? What did you see yourself being at the end? What did you see yourself owning, controlling? That's the end. Everything else cannot last. We need to go out of here trusting God that our time will not be wasted anymore. Amen? Okay, I'm getting close to closing here. The keeper of time. Let me close with this psalm. Okay, let's read this verse. Now, you've never seen this verse before in your life. Psalm 31:14. It says, I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hands. Oh, I love it. Isn't that beautiful? He says, look, your time is your life, and I got your time. So let me control your time, and I will control your life. My times are in your hands. Then the next part says what? Deliver me from the hand of my enemies and from those who pursue me. Make your face, your favor, shine upon your servant. Save me in your unfailing love. Let me not be put to shame, Lord. Now, the last part of that is very important. Wouldn't it be a shame for Joseph to tell all his brothers that he was going to be a king and he died in the pit? So let me tell you what David was saying here. David is saying, look, whatever you saw is important to God's reputation. I've only got a couple minutes left, but I want you to understand this. Your purpose is a part of God's pride. So he won't allow you to fail, to mess up his reputation. So the Bible says he will not put you in a position where you'll be ashamed. You'll make him ashamed if you would be put to shame. So that's why he says, he will not let you be put to shame because he ain't going to be ashamed. So he put your times in his hands. He says, I'm going to control this. Give me your times. Give me your time. Use your time for my purpose. And I'll make sure that none of us are embarrassed. You or me. So, whatever you told them, he says, I got to make sure that it becomes a reality to protect myself and to protect you. That's why I love speaking my faith, because I'm putting pressure on him, because I know he got to protect his name. His namesake. I will do this for my namesake. You ever read that in the Bible? That's what that means. He says, I got to protect my reputation. So everybody repeat after me. I am on my way to what I saw. I am on my way to my end. Yes. Just lift your hand and give God a thanks. Give him a big thank you right there. Because that's where you are. Say it louder. I am on my way to what I saw. So what you saw as your future is God's past. Your future is God's past. So that means that what you're trying to start is already finished. That's the point I'm trying to make. All right? So God already finished you, and now he puts you to begin it. So he's not concerned about when you are going to get there. He wants obedience. Obedience. And so this year is the year of protecting your time. Here is the greatest thing to remember. Everything is permissible for me to do, but not everything is beneficial. Wow. I remember when I got revelation of this. When you get this in your psyche, in your heart, that's your subconscious mind, this helps you make decisions. Because there's going to be alternatives, options that are competing for your time, for your money, your energies, your attention. And so everything is what? Permissible for me to do, but not everything is beneficial. So you have to think about, is this beneficial? Everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. And then read the last part. But I will be mastered by nothing. Read the next verse. Everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible, but not everything is what? Constructive. Construction. Think about what you need for construction. Your life is a project. So if you're going to build a house, there are certain things that you need, and there are things you don't need. For example, you don't need leaf to build a house, right? Now, leaves are good, but when you build a house, you don't need leaves. So the point is, everything is permissible, but it doesn't add to your construction. So you don't waste your time on things, on projects, on people, on clubs. I mean, because sometimes we join clubs and we're just wasting our time. Oh, time to get up and go to the club. I mean, we got Red Club, we got Lions Club, Rotary Club, we got Golf Club. I mean, all these clubs. So check your life. Hey, you're going to be dead soon. And look, half the folks at the club, they already have money. And you have none. So, you go there, you spend all these hours with these people, and they ain't giving you nothing. They just playing golf, but they ain't giving you no money. So check your clubs. I know I tend to touch some nerves sometimes, but look, you need to check. Is this constructive to my life? See, that's the question. Look at that verse again. Think about what you're reading here. The Bible says you have a brain and a free will. And so you can do anything that you want to do this year. But he says, look, not everything you do is beneficial to what you were born to do. Is it constructive? My time. Whatever it is, it's got to be part of the project of building my life. So this is the first month of the year. So now you have a chance to fix it. Lay down some things. Put some boundaries in your life. Lay down some criteria. I will not do this or do that. And this is what I'm going to check for. Because I don't have time to waste. Say that. I don't have time to waste. Tell yourself. I don't have time to waste. I have a building to build. I have a life to construct. I have a vision to complete. I have something to do with my life. Anybody got that? In Jesus' name. Construction. So, it's important that you rediscover God's authority in your life that you're supposed to fulfill as a kingdom citizen. I think I got to talk about people again. Make a list of all the people that you spent time with last year and ask the Lord to help you determine which ones are anchors in your life. Because you don't want no dead weight in your life. You want wind under your wings. Those are the kind of people that you need in your life. That put wind under you. Help you fly. If the Lord has spoke to you and you heard His voice in any small way, just give Him thanks for setting you free from time wasters. I want to just have a moment where we just worship Him right wherever you are and just give Him praise for speaking to your life tonight. Because all of us, we all need to be reminded that our life is our time and that God wants us to use that time for our purpose. Redeem the time. Take back your time. Repossess your life. Repossess your energy. It's so precious. The time that you have, 24 hours. Repossess your relationships. Repossess your talents, your giftings. Do it tonight. Give it back to God. Because what the Lord wants is He wants a response right now. And He has one word. He says, acknowledge me. Say that, acknowledge. The Bible says, acknowledge Him in all your ways, and He will do what? He will direct your paths. Yes. Make my path straight. And so this moment right now, that's all God wants from you. Acknowledgement means that I recognize your total control over everything I am. I acknowledge that I need you. Because this year, listen, this year can be a bad year for you. This year can be your best year. It depends on what you do. And so He wants us to acknowledge Him right now. However you want to do that. So everybody just say, Lord, 2023 is not my year. It's yours. I acknowledge you in all relational, physical, financial, business, every area, education. I acknowledge you. If you want God to take over the steps of your life one more time, then He says, acknowledge me. You know what He said to you, so wherever you are, just go ahead and just kneel right at your chair. Ask God to take back what I took from you. Take back control of my life. I acknowledge you today. I will abuse my time no longer. My time is your time. Yes. So find a space by your chair as the Lord speaks to you. Let this be a moment of acknowledgement. Put your pride in your pocket and kneel at your chair. Wherever you are, right there in your room, in your living room, your hotel room, in your bedroom. Say, Lord, I give you my year again. My time is in your hands. And let the Lord just take your life again. Because, listen, this is what the Lord says. He says, I will protect those who acknowledge me. I will guide you with my hand. I will hold you with my right hand. Hallelujah. So this is a moment of acknowledgement. Acknowledge Him. Just quietly, just tell him, I give you my time, my energy. Forgive me for wasting time on good things that aren't right. Forgive me for wasting time with people who aren't helping me to get to my destiny. I give my life back to you. Thank you, Jesus. Give him back your finances. All the money you wasted. All the time that was lost. Redeem the time. Take it back. Take control of your life. Do it this year. Do it now. Don't waste another year. Last thing, I want to ask you to give. Let God take control of your finances this year. And I ask you to give to this ministry and make an investment. It's not an offering, but it's making an investment in the kingdom message and in developing leaders, getting the right content in churches, the right gospel. We got to make sure that we're taking the right gospel to the world.